Look, nobody tells you this when you sign up for frontier xenobiology work, but twisted ankles still hurt like absolute hell, even on planets where the local apex predators could bite through titanium plating. Talia had spent 8 months on Kraa Prime studying ecosystems that would make Earth's prehistoric periods look like a petting zoo, and what finally got her? A patch of loose scree and her own spectacular lack of coordination. The planet itself was gorgeous, if your definition of gorgeous included bioluminescent forests that glowed with vaguely threatening purple light, and weather patterns that shifted from torrential rain to blazing heat in under an hour. The research outpost squatted on a plateau overlooking one of those forests, a collection of prefabricated habitat modules that hummed with the constant whir of air filtration systems working overtime to keep the local spore count at non-hallucinogenic levels. Talia had been mapping mineral deposits near the edge of Oxith territory when it happened. One moment, she was carefully picking her way around a cluster of crystalline formations that jutted from the ground like naturally occurring caltrops, and the next, her boot found the one piece of ground that decided structural integrity was optional. Her ankle rolled. There was a pop that sounded far too loud in her own ears, and she went down hard on her hands and knees with a string of curses that would have made her old academy instructors proud. "Oh, you absolute son of a... fantastic!" she hissed through gritted teeth, sitting back on the one good leg and gingerly prodding at her boot. Pain shot up her calf, sharp and immediate. Not broken, probably. Her med-scan training said sprain, maybe a bad one. Her common sense said she was an idiot for not watching where she stepped. The forest around her continued its usual symphony of clicks, whistles, and the occasional roar that sounded like it came from something with far too many teeth. Talia pulled her portable scanner from her belt and ran it over her ankle. The readout confirmed what the pain was already telling her. Soft tissue damage, some swelling, nothing that wouldn't heal with rest and basic treatment. Annoying, but not dangerous. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, really, was that 3 pairs of eyes had been watching her for the past 20 minutes. The Oxith were not subtle creatures. Standing roughly 3 meters tall at the shoulder when on all fours, they resembled what might happen if someone took a panther, scaled it up by a factor of 5, added dragon-like features, and then gave the whole package crystalline fangs that wept with paralytic venom. Their hide shifted between deep purple and black, depending on the light, covered in patterns that seemed to flow like oil on water. When they moved through the forest, trees bent. When they hunted, prey didn't run. It just stopped, frozen in the biological certainty that running would only make the yuom, and more drawn out. Talia had earned her place on Kraa Prime specifically because she understood the Oxith. Well, understood them as much as any human could understand a species whose primary form of affection involved play fighting that could accidentally crush bones. She'd spent months learning their language, their territorial patterns, their complex social structures. And then, about 2 months into her assignment, she'd done something that apparently no other species had bothered with. She'd helped one of them. Feckip, the youngest cub of Huncala's current litter, had gotten into some kind of toxic fungus. The spores had caused a nasty infection in a wound on his foreleg. And while Oxith immune systems were phenomenally robust, this particular fungus was native to a completely different biome, and his body had no reference for fighting it. Talia had watched the cub grow increasingly lethargic, and Huncala, massive, terrifying Huncala, who could have ended Talia's entire existence with one casual swipe, had been frantic in a way that transcended species. So Talia had done what any decent xenobiologist with basic medical training would do. She'd approached the matriarch with a kit full of broad-spectrum antibiotics and the universal language of a parent watching their child suffer. Huncala had let her near the cub. Talia had cleaned the wound, applied antibiotic gel, and left the remaining supplies with instructions conveyed through her translator and a lot of very careful gestures. Feckip had recovered within days. Huncala had regarded Talia with what might have been respect, or possibly just the decision that killing her would be impolite under the circumstances. Either way, the human had been granted something like provisional acceptance by the local clan, which meant that when Pixol, Monreil, and Feckip had started following Talia on her surveys, at what they probably thought was a stealthy distance, she'd pretended not to notice. The cubs were curious, and as long as they didn't try to play with her the way they played with each other, everyone would survive the experience. Right now, hiding behind a formation of twisted purple vegetation, about 50 meters from where Talia sat clutching her ankle, the three cubs were having what could only be described as a heated discussion. "The pink one is hurt," Pixel rumbled, his voice carrying that particular tone of teenage certainty that transcended species. At nearly adolescent size, he was already larger than a full-grown earth tiger, with crystalline fangs just beginning to develop their adult length. "Obviously, she is hurt," Monreil shot back, her tail lashing with agitation. "Look how she moves. That leg does not work right." Feckip, still small enough that his venom glands hadn't fully developed, made a worried chirping sound. Is the pink one dying? Like I was dying?" The three of them watched as Talia slowly, painfully got to her feet. She tested weight on the injured ankle, winced dramatically, and then started hobbling back toward the research outpost. Her gait was awkward, halting, and accompanied by muttered commentary that the cubs' universal translators were probably butchering magnificently. "She saved me," Feckip continued, his voice small. "When the bad growth hurt me, she made healing liquid and put it on my leg. She made me better." Pixol's eyes, which glowed faintly in the forest's purple ambiance, narrowed with determination. "Then we must do the same. We must help the pink one." "But how?" Monreil asked. "We do not have her strange containers and soft wrapping things. We do not have human healing liquid." There was a moment of silence as the three cubs contemplated this problem. Somewhere in the distance, something screamed. Probably prey, possibly predator. Definitely not their concern right now. The forest's background noise of clicks and whistles continued uninterrupted. Then Pixol's tail went rigid, which in Oxith body language meant he'd just had what he thought was a brilliant idea. "We have healing liquid," he said slowly. "Our healing liquid. The venom." Monreil's head swiveled to stare at her brother. "The what?" "Think about it," Pixel insisted, warming to his theory with the confidence of someone who had just connected dots that absolutely should not be connected. "When we are hurt in our playfights, Mother licks our wounds. Her venom makes the pain stop. It makes everything stop until the body can heal. The pink one is in pain. We heard her make those sounds. If we bring her venom, it will make the pain stop." Feckip's eyes widened. "Like when I cut my paw, and Mother's lick made it feel better until it closed." "Exactly." Pixol's enthusiasm was building to dangerous levels. "The pink one used her healing liquid on you, Feckip. Now we use our healing liquid on her. It is balance. It is proper." Monreil considered this. Her translator chip, still in its juvenile calibration phase, had taken the concept of mutual aid and reciprocal altruism and apparently mashed them together with enthusiastic but poorly thought-out plans. "Mother always says we must help those who help the clan," she said slowly. "And the pink one helped the clan when she saved Feckip," Pixel countered. She is like clan now. Strange, soft, weirdly colored clan, but clan." This was, objectively speaking, one of the worst ideas any of the cubs had ever had, and that was including the time Monreil had decided to test whether she could eat the glowing berries that made adult Oxith violently ill. But it was also motivated by genuine gratitude and the kind of pure-hearted desire to help that is particularly dangerous when combined with incomplete biological knowledge. "How do we get the venom to her?" Feckip asked practically. "We cannot just bite her. That seems wrong." "No biting," Pixel agreed quickly. We need a container. Like the containers the pink one used for her healing liquid." The three cubs looked at each other. Then, as one, they turned toward the area where Talia did most of her field sample collection. She'd been working in this region for months, and the local landscape was dotted with the occasional piece of equipment she'd lost, dropped, or temporarily abandoned during surveys. Monreil's tail swished with excitement. "I know where one of her clear containers is, the small one she dropped when she was running from the swarm flyers last month." "Perfect!" Pixel stood, his massive form unfolding with predatory grace. "I will provide the venom. My glands are most developed. Feckip, you help Monreil find the container. We meet back here, and then we save the pink one." If Huncala had been present for this conversation, she would have shut it down immediately with the kind of maternal authority that brooked zero argument. But Huncala was currently 3 kilometers away, dealing with a territorial dispute with a neighboring clan, and had left her cubs with explicit instructions to stay near the den and absolutely not bother the human. The cubs, being cubs, had interpreted this as, "Don't let the human see you following her," which they considered a completely different directive. As Talia continued her painful hobble back toward the outpost, completely unaware of the plan forming behind her, the 3 Oxith cubs scattered to prepare their rescue mission. Pixel settled into a clearing, working his jaw to stimulate his venom glands. Monreil and Feckip bounded off toward the sample collection site, their movements shaking the ground enough to send small creatures scattering. The venom that began to pool in Pixel's mouth was beautiful, in the way that many deadly things are beautiful. It shimmered with an iridescent quality, shifting between silver and pale blue. A single drop of it could paralyze an adult Oxith for hours. The amount Pixel was producing, driven by adolescent determination to provide the best healing liquid, would be enough to stop a creature 10 times Talia's size. In the distance, Talia finally reached her habitat module. She palmed the door open, limped inside, and immediately collapsed onto her bunk with a groan that was equal parts pain and frustration. Her ankle was swelling nicely inside her boot, and she knew from experience that getting the boot off was going to be an adventure in creative profanity. She had maybe 15 minutes before the cubs put their plan into action. 15 minutes of peace, icing her ankle, and contemplating the incident report she was going to have to file about injuring herself on completely routine terrain. 15 minutes before things got very, very complicated. Talia had just managed to wrestle her boot off, and process that involved considerable swearing, some creative leverage with a maintenance tool, and a moment where she genuinely considered just cutting the damn thing off, when her habitat module's external motion sensors pinged. She glanced at the monitor mounted near her bunk. 3 large heat signatures approaching fast. Very large. Very fast. "Oh, come on," she muttered, reaching for her translator unit. What now? The Oxith cubs had been getting bolder about approaching the outpost lately, usually out of curiosity about whatever equipment she'd left outside. Last week, Monreil had tried to eat a soil analysis probe. The week before that, Feckip had decided a solar panel made an excellent scratching post. Talia had learned to just let them explore, within reason. They were juveniles. Juveniles of every species were basically tiny chaos engines with legs, but they'd never actually tried to come inside before. The exterior airlock, designed primarily to keep out atmospheric contaminants and the occasional aggressive spore cloud, began to cycle. Talia sat up straighter on her bunk, wincing as her ankle throbbed in protest. Hey! No, you can't just... The inner door slid open with a hydraulic hiss. 3 enormous predator cubs tumbled into her living space in a tangle of limbs, tails, and what appeared to be extremely intense determination. Pixel entered first, moving with the kind of purpose that suggested he'd appointed himself mission leader. Monreil was right behind him, her eyes bright with excitement. Feckip brought up the rear, clutching something in his mouth. Talia's habitat module, designed for a single human occupant, suddenly felt very, very small. Okay, she said slowly, her hand instinctively moving toward the emergency beacon on her belt. Not to activate it, yet, but just to have it ready. Hi. Hello. This is new behavior. We're indoors now, inside my house. That's... Pixel made a rumbling sound that her translator rendered as something like, Pink one, injured, we help now. He moved forward, and that's when Talia saw what he was carrying. Clutched carefully in his massive jaws was one of her old sample collection containers, a cylindrical transparent tube about the size of a water bottle. Inside it, something shimmered with an iridescent quality that made her scientific brain go, ooh, pretty, and her survival brain go, danger, danger, danger. What? She started. Then her translator finally caught up with the cub's rapid-fire chittering. Healing liquid, Monreil announced proudly. Like you used on Feckip, but ours, for you. We gathered it, Feckip added, his young voice squeaking with enthusiasm. Pixel made so much. His glands are very strong. Talia's eyes widened as several pieces of information slammed together in her brain. Liquid, glands, shimmering. The way the cubs were looking at her injured ankle with what could only be described as helpful concern. Oh no, she said quietly. Oh no, no, no. That's not... You didn't... Pixel set the container down carefully and nudged it toward her with his snout. Up close, she could see the liquid inside more clearly. It moved sluggishly, almost gel-like, with that distinctive iridescent sheen she'd seen in her analysis of Oxith biology. Her research notes had devoted an entire chapter to that substance, specifically to how phenomenally toxic it was to non-Oxith life forms. That's venom, Talia said, her voice climbing slightly. You brought me venom. Your venom. The thing that paralyzes prey. The neurotoxic, extremely deadly venom. Yes, Monreil's tail swished happily. Healing liquid, for your leg hurt. It's not... Talia pressed her palms against her forehead. Okay, let me explain something. Human healing? Very different from Oxith healing. What works for you will very much kill me. Very quickly. Extremely quickly. The 3 cubs stared at her with identical expressions of confusion. But you used your healing liquid on Feckip, Pixel said slowly, his translator rendering his tone as genuinely puzzled. It made him better. We bring our healing liquid to you, to make you better. This is how helping works? Mother licks our wounds when we are hurt, Feckip offered helpfully. The venom stops the pain and lets the body fix itself. We thought—" "I know what you thought," Talia interrupted gently, trying to keep her voice calm despite the rising panic. "And that's actually really sweet. Genuinely. But human bodies don't work like Oxith bodies. Your venom doesn't heal us. It shuts down our nervous systems. Permanently." Monreil tilted her head, processing this. "So, it would not help your leg hurt?" "It would stop me from feeling my leg, yes," Talia said carefully, "and also stop me from feeling anything else. Forever. Because I would be dead." The silence that followed this statement was profound. Even the habitat module's background hum seemed to quiet, as if the environmental systems themselves were processing the implications. Then Feckip made a small, distressed sound. "Dead? We would make you dead?" "Very dead," Talia confirmed. "Super dead. The deadest." Pixel sat back on his haunches, looking like he'd just had his entire worldview shaken. But we wanted to help. Like you helped Feckip. We wanted to save you." "I know," Talia said, and despite the container of lethal neurotoxin sitting approximately 1 meter from her bare feet, she felt her heart break a little. "I know you did. And honestly, that's one of the kindest things anyone's tried to do for me, even if it would have resulted in my horrible death." Monreil's ears flattened against her head. "We did not know. We thought Mother uses venom to help us heal. The pain stops, and then the wounds close better. We thought all healing worked this way. Different species, different biology," Talia explained, eyeing the venom container warily. "It was sealed, at least. That was something. What's medicine for you is poison for me. And vice versa, actually. Those antibiotics I used on Feckip would probably make an adult Oxith pretty sick." "This is very confusing," Feckip announced. "Healing should just be healing." "You're telling me," Talia muttered. She started to shift her weight, intending to reach for the venom container very carefully, when Monreil suddenly perked up. "Wait, if our venom does not work, what does work? Show us. Show us human healing." Before Talia could respond, Feckip was already moving toward her injured ankle with the single-minded determination of a juvenile who'd just been given a new mission. His claws, each the size of her thumb, reached for her compression bandage. "No! Stop! Don't!" Talia yanked her leg back, which sent a fresh spike of pain through her ankle and made her hiss through her teeth. "Nobody touches the ankle. The ankle is off limits." Pixel moved closer, his massive head lowering to examine her elevated leg with intense scrutiny. "But it is injured. If venom does not fix it, what does? Your healing liquid is not here. We see no containers, no soft wrapping things like you used on Feckip. Because I haven't gotten to that part yet." Talia gestured at her medical kit, still sealed on the shelf across the room. "I was taking off my boot, which took forever, and I was going to ice the ankle, wrap it properly, take some anti-inflammatories, and then rest it for a few days. That's human healing. It's boring, it's slow, it doesn't involve any shimmering neurotoxins." The three cubs exchanged glances. Monreil spoke first. That is the healing process? Waiting? Just waiting for it to fix itself?" "Basically, yes. But you are in pain now," Pixel protested. "We can see it. You make the face, the pain face." Talia blinked. "The what?" "When something hurts, your face does a thing," Feckip demonstrated by scrunching up his own features in what was probably meant to be an imitation of a human wince. On an Oxith cub, it looked more like he was attempting to sneeze and growl simultaneously. "Like that? You do that when the leg hurt happens." "Okay, yes, fine, I'm in pain," Talia admitted, but it's manageable pain. Pain that will go away with time and basic treatment. I don't need immediate intervention, and I definitely don't need venom-based therapy. Monreil's tail drooped. So we cannot help at all? And there it was. 3 massive predator cubs, each capable of tremendous violence, looking at her with expressions of genuine disappointment because they couldn't ease her suffering. The absurdity of the situation wasn't lost on Talia. She'd spent months studying these creatures, cataloging their hunting patterns, their social structures, their complex communication methods. And now here they were, in her tiny habitat module, having brought her the alien equivalent of soup for the sick friend. Except the soup was deadly poison. "You can help," she said slowly, an idea forming. "Just not the way you planned. Can you, Monreil, can you grab that medical kit from the shelf? The white box with the red marking?" Monreil brightened immediately, happy to have a task. She stretched up and up and up, because even as a juvenile she was absurdly tall, and carefully lifted the medical kit with her teeth. She brought it to Talia with the delicate precision of someone carrying a live explosive. "Thank you," Talia said, taking the kit and opening it. Inside was the standard frontier medical supply: compression bandages, ice packs, pain medication, antiseptic, a portable bone knitter for actual breaks, and various other tools for keeping humans functional in environments that really didn't want them there. The 3 cubs crowded closer, their eyes wide with fascination. Talia pulled out a chemical ice pack and cracked it, shaking it to activate the endothermic reaction. Instant cold bloomed against her palms. "See this? This reduces swelling. Swelling is when fluid builds up in damaged tissue. Cold makes the blood vessels constrict, which limits the swelling. Your healing liquid is cold?" Pixel sounded deeply skeptical. "This isn't a liquid, it's a cold pack. The liquid comes next." She tore open an antiseptic wipe and cleaned the area around her ankle, even though there was no open wound. The cubs watched with rapt attention. "This kills small organisms that might cause infection. Humans don't have the same immune response you do. We need help keeping wounds clean." Feckip leaned in so close that Talia could feel his breath, which smelled like something between ozone and copper. "And that makes healing happen?" "It prevents complications that would slow healing," Talia corrected. She pulled out a compression bandage and began wrapping her ankle with practiced efficiency. This provides support and limits movement, which prevents further injury. The body does the actual healing on its own, but we can create better conditions for it. "This seems like many steps," Monreil observed, "and many different things. Why do humans need so many things just for one leg hurt?" "Because we're not apex predators," Talia said bluntly, securing the bandage. "We didn't evolve with natural weapons, armored hide, or built-in healing venom. We evolved with big brains and the ability to use tools, so our healing involves lots of tools." She popped 2 anti-inflammatory pills from a blister pack and swallowed them dry, which made all 3 cubs flinch in what looked like sympathetic discomfort. Then she positioned the ice pack against her now wrapped ankle and leaned back against the wall with a sigh. "And now?" Pixel asked. "Now I wait. The swelling goes down over the next few hours, the pain medication kicks in, and the tissue repairs itself over the next few days. Boring, slow, but effective." The cubs sat in silence, processing this. Finally, Monreil spoke up. "Human healing is very complicated." "Yep. And very slow." "Also, yep. And requires many strange objects." "You're getting the picture," Talia agreed. She glanced at the container of venom, still sitting innocuously on her floor. I'm going to need to dispose of that. Very carefully, by the way. That much venom in one place is basically a biological hazard. Pixel's ears flattened. We just wanted to help, he said quietly. Like you helped Feckip. I know, Talia said softly. And honestly, the intention means more than you realize. You saw someone you care about in pain, and your first instinct was to help them. That's actually pretty remarkable. Even though we almost killed you? Feckip asked in a small voice. Even though you almost killed me, Talia confirmed. Though let's maybe not make that a regular thing. My heart can't take it. Monreil tilted her head. Your heart? We were going to hurt your heart too? It's an expression, Talia said quickly, before they could spiral into worrying about cardiac complications. It means emotionally stressful, which this has been. Very stressful. So much stress. The habitat module's door suddenly cycled again, and Talia's eyes went wide. Oh no! Please tell me that's not... Huncala's massive head appeared in the doorway, and her eyes, glowing faintly in the module's artificial light, swept the scene with the assessment speed of a mother who knows her offspring have done something colossally stupid. 3 cubs in a human habitat. 1 injured human. A container of venom on the floor. The matriarch's growl started low in her chest and built to a rumble that made the walls vibrate. Her translator, far more sophisticated than her cubs' models, rendered her words with perfect, terrifying clarity. What? Huncala said, with the forced calm of someone whose patience had been tested beyond all reasonable limits. In the name of the Hunt Mothers, have you 3 done? The silence that followed Huncala's question was the kind of silence that precedes either violent retribution or lectures of legendary duration. Talia, having spent 8 months learning Oxith social dynamics, knew which one was coming. The matriarch's tail wasn't lashing. It was rigid, held in that particular position that meant deep, profound disappointment. Personally, Talia would have preferred the violence. It would have been quicker. Mother, Pixel started, but Huncala cut him off with a sharp click of her crystalline fangs. No, you do not speak yet. The matriarch's gaze swept over her 3 cubs, then landed on Talia with an expression that might have been concern. Pink one, are you injured beyond the leg hurt I can smell? Did they? Her eyes found the venom container, and something that might have been horror flickered across her features. Did they attempt to administer venom? They tried, Talia said carefully, holding up one hand in what she hoped was a calming gesture. But they didn't succeed. I'm fine. Well, not fine. My ankle is absolutely wrecked, but I'm fine in the not currently dying from neurotoxin exposure sense. Huncala's entire body seemed to sag slightly, which was alarming because the matriarch never showed weakness. Never. Ancestors preserve us, she muttered. Then, louder. Explain, now, all of you. How did this catastrophically poor decision occur? The 3 cubs looked at each other. Finally, Feckip, youngest, smallest, and apparently nominated as spokesperson by virtue of being the least likely to get eaten, spoke up. We saw the pink one. We saw Talia hurt herself. She was making pain sounds. Her leg did not work right. We thought... He trailed off, ears drooping. We thought we should help her, like she helped me when I had the bad growth hurt. Huncala's expression softened fractionally. And your method of helping was to bring her venom? Our venom? The substance we use to immobilize prey before consuming them? Mother uses it to help us heal, Monreil protested. When we are hurt in training fights, you lick our wounds, and the venom makes the pain stop. We thought... You thought without knowledge, Huncala interrupted. You extrapolated from incomplete understanding. You assumed all species healed the same way. She turned to Talia. They attempted to pour this on your injury? They were very insistent about it, Talia confirmed. Very helpful, very enthusiastic, very nearly successful in committing accidental murder. Pixel made a sound like a whimper, which was disturbing coming from something his size. We did not know it would kill her. We thought, the venom stops pain for us. It lets tissue repair without interference from nerve signals. It is medicine. It is medicine for Oxith, Huncala said, her voice taking on the tone of someone explaining something that should have been obvious. For other species, it is death. Quick death, usually. Sometimes slow death, which is worse. She fixed each of her cubs with a stare. Did none of you think to ask? To verify? To perhaps consult with the one who actually understands cross-species biology? The three cubs suddenly became very interested in examining the floor. Huncala sighed, a sound like steam escaping from a pressure valve. She moved fully into the habitat module, which required some creative maneuvering and made the space feel even more cramped. Her massive form settled near Talia's bunk, close enough that Talia could feel the heat radiating from her hide. I must apologize for my offspring, the matriarch said. Their intentions were pure. Their execution was potentially fatal. Story of my life, Talia muttered, adjusting the ice pack on her ankle. Look, I appreciate the apology, but they genuinely didn't know. And honestly, the fact that they wanted to help at all is... She paused, searching for the right words. It's significant. It means they see me as part of the social group. Worth protecting. Worth saving. Worth accidentally poisoning, Huncala added dryly. Well, yes, that too. The matriarch turned her attention back to her cubs. You understand now? The difference between our biology and human biology? What heals us can kill them. What helps them might harm us. This is why we do not assume. This is why we learn before we act. We understand, Pixel said miserably. We are sorry, Mother. We are sorry, Talia. We only wanted... I know what you wanted, Talia interrupted gently. And for what it's worth. If the biology had been compatible, that would have been amazing medical intervention. Very proactive. Top-notch crisis response. Feckip looked up hopefully. Really? Really? You saw a problem, formulated a solution, and executed a plan. That's actually impressive problem-solving. You just didn't have all the relevant data. The relevant data being that they were preparing a murder attempt instead of medical aid, Huncala said, but there was a hint of dark amusement in her tone now. Tomato? Neurotoxin? Talia quipped, then realized her translator probably wouldn't handle that idiom well. I mean, same but different. Intent versus outcome. The intent was good. Huncala regarded her for a long moment. You are remarkably calm about nearly being killed by well-meaning juveniles. I work in frontier xenobiology, Talia said. Nearly being killed is pretty much a daily occurrence. Last month I almost got consumed by a carnivorous moss. The month before that, I accidentally insulted a territorial bird thing that tried to dive-bomb me into a ravine. Compared to that, this is almost endearing. Endearing, Huncala repeated, her translator making the word sound somehow skeptical. They cared enough to try to save me, Talia pointed out, even if the method would have had the opposite effect. That's... She gestured vaguely at the three cubs, who were watching her with matching expressions of hope and anxiety. That's actually kind of sweet, in a terrifying, potentially lethal way. Monreil's tail perked up slightly. So you are not angry with us? Oh, I'm processing several emotions right now, Talia assured her. Anger, fear, existential dread, appreciation, fondness, and a really strong desire to update my hazard protocols. But angry? No, not angry. Just, she glanced at Huncala, maybe hoping for some education to happen here. So this doesn't become a recurring issue? The matriarch's eyes gleamed. Oh, there will be education. Extensive education. Starting with Huncala's lecture on the fundamental differences between Oxith and human physiology lasted approximately 45 minutes and was delivered with the kind of systematic thoroughness that suggested she'd been waiting for an opportunity to teach this lesson. The cubs sat in a miserable row, tails tucked, ears flat, while their mother explained in excruciating detail exactly how many ways their venom could have killed Talia. And the respiratory paralysis would have occurred within 30 seconds, Huncala was saying, her tone clinical, followed by complete nervous system shutdown. The pink one would have been aware for approximately 15 of those seconds. Conscious, unable to move, unable to breathe, understanding that death was imminent. Okay, I think they get it, Talia interjected, watching Feckip's eyes grow progressively wider with horror. The point has been thoroughly made, very thoroughly, exceptionally thoroughly. Huncala turned to her. You are certain? Because I can continue. I have not yet covered the detailed breakdown of neurotransmitter disruption. I'm certain, Talia said quickly. Let's maybe not traumatize them further. They feel bad enough. The matriarch made a sound that might have been agreement, or might have been reluctant acceptance. She settled her bulk more comfortably on the floor, which involved some creative arrangement of limbs and tail. Very well, then we move to the practical lesson. There's a practical component? Pixel asked weakly. Of course there is a practical component, Huncala said. You want to help the pink one? You will learn how to help her properly, using human methods, human medicine, human understanding of injury treatment. She gestured at Talia with one massive paw. Teach them. Talia blinked. Teach them what, exactly? What you showed them before. The ice-cold thing, the wrapping, the small tablets, all of it. They wanted to provide medical aid. Now they will learn how to provide it correctly. Talia looked at the three cubs, then at Huncala, then back at the cubs. You want me to give apex predator juveniles a crash course in human first aid? Yes, Huncala said simply. They made a mistake, born from ignorance. The solution to ignorance is knowledge. So, teach. It was, Talia had to admit, actually solid logic. She shifted on her bunk, repositioning her elevated ankle. Okay, fine, but we're doing this properly, which means you three need to understand something fundamental first. The cubs perked up, eager for redemption through education. Human bodies are fragile, Talia began. Compared to Oxith physiology, we're basically held together with optimism and stubbornness. We don't have armored hide. We don't have redundant organ systems. We don't have venom glands or crystalline fangs or any of the built-in advantages you have. We're soft. We're slow to heal. We're vulnerable. Why? Monreil asked, genuinely curious. How did your species survive if you are so breakable? Tools, Talia said, and brains. We figured out how to make things that compensate for what we lack biologically. Medicine is just another tool. She reopened her medical kit. So, Lesson 1. Assessment. Before you treat any injury, you need to know what you're dealing with. What questions would you ask? Pixel straightened, taking this seriously. Is the injury bleeding? Good. What else? Can the injured one move the hurt part? Feckip offered. Excellent. Monreil? Is there swelling? You said swelling was bad. Swelling isn't bad exactly, Talia corrected. It's a response to injury. But excessive swelling can cause problems. Good thinking. She pulled out a diagnostic scanner. This device reads internal damage. Broken bones, torn tissue, internal bleeding. Things we can't see from outside. She ran the scanner over her ankle again, slowly, letting them see the readout. The display showed a three-dimensional rendering of her ankle joint, with areas of soft tissue damage highlighted in amber. See here? This is where the ligaments stretched. Not torn, just stretched. That's why it's a sprain, not a break. The treatment is rest, ice, compression, elevation. We call it RICE. Rice? Huncala's translator seemed confused. The grain? No, it's an acronym. Letters that stand for never mind. That's not important. Talia shook her head. The point is, different injuries need different treatments. A twisted ankle needs different care than a cut, which needs different care than a broken bone. She spent the next 20 minutes walking them through her medical kit, explaining each item's purpose. The cubs were surprisingly attentive, asking questions that ranged from practical to deeply weird. Why are the healing tablets so small? Feckip wanted to know. How can something so tiny do anything? Chemistry, Talia said. They don't need to be big. The molecules inside are what matter. What happens if we eat one? Monreil asked. Nothing good, Talia said quickly. Human medicine, human biology, remember? What helps me might make you very sick. Same rule, opposite direction. Pixel was fascinated by the compression bandages. And this tight wrapping helps healing how? It limits movement, reduces swelling, provides support. The injury can't get worse if it can't move around. Talia demonstrated the proper wrapping technique on her own ankle again, then unwrapped it and handed the bandage to Pixel. Want to try? The young Oxith took the bandage delicately in his fangs, then transferred it to his claws. He attempted to mimic her wrapping motion on his own foreleg, moving with exaggerated care. The result was lopsided and would have provided exactly zero medical benefit, but the concentration on his face was almost comical. Not bad for a first attempt, Talia said diplomatically. Maybe a bit looser. You want support, not amputation. While the cubs practiced with bandages, which quickly devolved into Monreil somehow managing to wrap Feckip's tail to his hind leg, Talia noticed Huncala watching with an expression that might have been approval. This is good learning for them, the matriarch said quietly. Understanding other species, their weaknesses and strengths, how to help without harming. It's good learning for me, too, Talia admitted. I've spent months studying Oxith biology from a distance. This is the first time I've really understood how you think about healing. The venom thing? That's actually fascinating from a medical standpoint. Huncala's eyes gleamed with interest. How so? Well, Talia hesitated, then decided to commit to the thought. Your venom shuts down nerve signals, right? Stops pain, allows tissue to repair without interference. That's not that different from what human anesthetics do. We just use chemical compounds instead of venom. But the principle is similar. You use manufactured substances to mimic what our bodies produce naturally, Huncala said slowly. Exactly. And I'm wondering. Talia glanced at the container of venom, still sitting innocuously on her floor. Would you let me analyze a sample? Properly, in a controlled environment? Because if there are compounds in Oxith venom that promote healing, even just for your species, that could be valuable data. The matriarch considered this. What would you do with this data? Study it, document it, Maybe, and this is speculative, maybe find applications. Not using it on humans directly, obviously, that would be catastrophic. But understanding the mechanism, that could lead to developing similar compounds that work with human biology. The cubs nearly kill you with venom, and your response is to ask for more venom, Huncala said, her tone dry. Humans are strange. We prefer scientifically curious, Talia countered. But yes, also strange. Pixel looked up from where he'd been attempting to apply an ice pack to Monreil's shoulder for some reason. Wait, our venom could help humans? After all? Not directly, Talia cautioned, but studying it might help us develop better treatments. Different route, same destination. The young Oxith's entire demeanor shifted. So we can still help, just later, with science. With science, Talia confirmed, which is slower than dumping venom on injuries, but significantly less fatal. Feckip had somehow managed to wrap himself entirely in compression bandages and was rolling around on the floor like the galaxy's most dangerous burrito. Monreil was trying to help, which mostly involved making things worse. Pixel abandoned his ice pack project to assist, and within seconds, all three cubs were tangled in medical supplies. Huncala watched this chaos with the weary resignation of parents everywhere. They mean well. They really do, Talia agreed, watching Feckip finally extract himself from the bandage cocoon. Terrible execution, but excellent hearts. Perhaps, the matriarch said thoughtfully, this could be an ongoing arrangement. You teach them about human medicine and biology. They provide samples for your research. Both species learn from the exchange. Talia felt something warm bloom in her chest, which was definitely not the pain medication kicking in. That's actually a really good idea. Mutually beneficial knowledge sharing. And it keeps the cubs occupied, Huncala added pragmatically, which prevents future incidents of well-meaning attempted murder. Always a plus, Talia said.